Waking up in the morning is tough for all of us. There's nothing better than a coffee in the morning to get your day going, right? Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Don't you feel trapped waiting in line that's only getting longer, just for a caffeine rush that only seems temporary? 64% of students drink coffee daily, stuck in a cycle yearning for the quote-unquote energy coming from caffeine. However, coffee is not the only caffeinated drink on the market. Currently, hundreds of different brands like Red Bull and Monster exist. With caffeine ranging from a modest 50 milligrams to an alarming 505 milligrams per can or bottle. With an additional 36% of students drinking at least one energy drink daily, caffeine has been compared to drugs as it is the substance many depend on. We spoke to professionals about this growing issue that is slowly taking over the lives of the students.
So for our first interview, we decided to interview a pediatrician. Her name is Maritza Irizarry. She's recognized in the Phoenix, Arizona area. So we began the interview with Maritza by first off asking what are effects that she sees caused by caffeine in children that she works closely with. And her response to the question was,
yeah, there are several ways that caffeine can affect the body because it's a stimulant. It stimulates the central nervous system. Therefore, the secondary side effects like insomnia, like sleep disturbances. It can also alter your blood pressure. There's a limit on how much caffeine anybody would ingest, but this is potentiated like in children. There's certain guidelines, and the consumption of caffeine should be limited to not more than 100 milligrams, which, if we take any, I don't want to say any, but if you go into a line and buy a cup of coffee, it will certainly have way much more than that. And so would many of the, energizing beverages, and even sodas can contain caffeine.
after discussing the effects of caffeine on the human body, we then asked Maritza if over-the-counter medicine was safe to take at the same time as caffeine, or if it had any potential harms. And this is what she had to say.
It depends on the person's conditions. We know that a lot of these drinks that people utilize to get energy also have a high content of sugar. So you have to watch it, particularly if you have conditions like diabetes. So the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that there's no coffee given under 12 years because of the amount of caffeine that these could contain. So there's certain guidelines about how much caffeine, and remember that tea also has caffeine. It's basically caffeine. It's a substance that it's coming from natural sources, although men can also produce it, and it's being utilized in certain medications, like medications for migraine and several others. So it's very important that all the everything is integrated, and if you're taking some medications, that should be considered if your coffee consumption exceeds 2 cups a day.
Caffeine isn't only used in the morning coffee that many wait in long lines for. It is commonly used in pre-workout supplements for enhanced energy and physical performance. We spoke to another professional about caffeine consumption among students. The second person we interviewed was Rick Benjamin, also known as Coach Benjamin. Coach Benjamin has the knowledge on the effects of caffeine on teenagers because he manages a weightlifting class and coaches football at her school. We consulted him about caffeine and its effects on performance among students.
Well, caffeine consumption, first of all, it's a stimulant. Okay, so this can impact the brain, the reaction, the memory, the receptors into the brain, and so this is something that definitely you don't want to be consuming too much of. You can find that a lot of that in coffee, and some teas, and stuff like this. So what it does is it also raises their core temperature, and the stimulant will pretty much put you in a situation where you may act above and beyond your normal capacity. So you want to be real careful about taking too much caffeine in your sitting, especially right around no more than 250 milligrams per sitting. Okay, you'll find a lot of that a lot higher in some of these other stimulants.
Based on research that our group conducted, many of these pre-workout supplements range from 150 milligrams to 300 milligrams of caffeine per serving, amounting to about 3 cups of coffee.
Well, first and foremost, I don't tell anybody to take anything. I can't do that professionally. But if they ask me about a certain product or something like this, I can speak to them and tell them about what kind of effect it may have on the body. So when it comes to caffeine, I don't recommend it, but you're going to find caffeine in a lot of things. I mean, you find caffeine in chocolate, okay? And but the doses, as long as they're low, they won't impact as much. So, but I wouldn't outright take caffeine as a stimulant just to try to get your raising your core temperature, your metabolism, raising your metabolism, stuff like this. Your heartbeat will rise. So you want to be real careful about that. And some people just can't handle that much caffeine.
There have been many incidents where too much caffeine intake resulted in deadly reactions despite not having any previous health conditions. We then asked Coach Benjamin what are the signs that a student is taking too much caffeine that they could handle.
Well, you have to really judge them on their normal behavior, off of their normal behavior. And so if they're acting above and beyond what they normally handle, you can take a look at their eyes, their actions, whether they're shaking or whether they're a little nervous or edgy and stuff like that. So a lot of those signs will come out if they're on caffeine or some other stimulant.
Doctor recommended amount of caffeine intake ranges from 100 to 200 milligrams, or about 1 cup of coffee per day. However, in the U.S., more than half of all Americans aged 18 and older consume more than 300 milligrams a day, making it America's most popular drug. In 2022, the average price for a cup of coffee rose 7.6%, averaging at about $5 per cup. Assuming at least 1 cup of coffee is drank every day, the cost would accumulate to a total of $1,825. Many unknowingly pay for an addiction that only brings temporary enjoyment. So think, is the line really worth the wait?